Hi everyone. In this video, I'll be showing you how to sew a women's tracksuit completely from scratch. We'll cover everything from choosing the right fabric to finishing those professional-looking seams. I'll share some of my favorite tips and tricks to make the process easier, and even show you how to avoid those common sewing mistakes. Let's get started and create a stylish, comfortable tracksuit you'll love. Hey everyone, and welcome. Today, we're diving into the wonderful world of sewing, and we're making a women's tracksuit. Let's get started by choosing the perfect style for your tracksuit. Choosing a style is so important. Think about your personal style. Are you going for something sporty and sleek, or something more relaxed and comfortable? Do you want a classic hoodie and joggers set, or perhaps a more modern zip-up jacket and leggings combination? Consider the details too: hood or no hood? Pockets? Cuffs? Thumb holes? Look at different patterns online or in sewing magazines for inspiration. Don't be afraid to mix and match elements from different designs to create something truly unique. Remember to choose a style that flatters your body type and reflects your personal taste. Take your time with this step, it's the foundation of your entire project. Now, let's talk about the materials and tools you'll need. For the tracksuit itself, you'll want a comfortable and durable knit fabric. French terry is a popular choice, offering a soft inner layer and a smooth outer layer. You could also use sweatshirt fleece, double-brushed poly, or even a performance knit fabric for added breathability. Remember to choose a fabric with enough stretch for ease of movement. The amount of fabric you'll need will depend on your chosen pattern and size, so be sure to check the pattern instructions carefully. In terms of tools, you'll need your sewing machine, of course, along with a variety of needles appropriate for knit fabrics, a ballpoint needle is essential to prevent skipped stitches. You'll also need fabric scissors, pins, measuring tape, seam ripper, and an iron. Don't forget your thread. Choose a thread that matches your fabric as closely as possible. Having all your tools organized and ready to go will make the sewing process much smoother. Sewing knitwear is a little different than sewing woven fabrics. Knit fabrics are stretchy, so you need to use techniques that accommodate that stretch. A serger is ideal for finishing seams on knit fabrics, preventing fraying and creating a professional finish. If you don't have a serger, a zigzag stitch on your sewing machine works well too. When sewing seams, use a stretch stitch on your machine, such as a 3-step zigzag or a narrow overlock stitch. This will allow the seam to stretch with the fabric without breaking. Avoid using a straight stitch on knit fabrics, as it can cause the seam to break easily. Also, remember to pre-wash your fabric before you start sewing to prevent shrinkage after the garment is finished. Pay close attention to the stretch and grain of the fabric throughout the entire process. Alright, let's get into the actual stages of work. First, you'll need to cut out your fabric pieces according to your chosen pattern. Make sure to carefully follow the pattern instructions and markings. Then, you'll start assembling the individual pieces. Begin with the pants, sewing the inseam and outseam. Next, attach the waistband and cuffs. For the top, start by sewing the shoulders and side seams. Then, attach the sleeves and hood, if your design includes one. Finally, add the cuffs and any pockets. Remember to press your seams as you go to maintain a neat and professional finish. Take your time and pay attention to detail. Accuracy is key to a well-fitting and beautiful tracksuit. If you're unsure about any step, refer back to your pattern instructions or search for tutorials online. Don't be afraid to ask for help if you need it. There are many helpful online communities dedicated to sewing. And there you have it. You've successfully sewn your own women's tracksuit. Remember, practice makes perfect. Don't get discouraged if your first attempt isn't flawless. The more you sew, the better you'll become. And most importantly, have fun with it. Sewing should be an enjoyable and creative process. I hope this video has inspired you to try your hand at making your own clothes. Happy sewing! Hey everyone, and welcome. Today we're diving into the wonderful world of sewing, and we're making a women's tracksuit. This is a project that might seem daunting, but I promise, with a little patience and these tips, you'll be rocking your own handmade tracksuit in no time. Let's get started with the very first step, taking measurements. Taking accurate measurements is absolutely crucial for a well-fitting tracksuit. We'll need several key measurements. First, we'll measure the bust circumference, carefully wrapping the measuring tape around the fullest part of your chest, keeping it level and snug but not tight. Next, we'll measure the waist circumference, at your natural waistline. Remember to breathe normally while taking these measurements. Then, we'll measure the hip circumference, around the widest part of your hips. For the length, we'll measure from your shoulder, down to where you want the top to end. And finally, for the pants, we'll measure from your waist, down to your desired ankle length. Write down all these measurements carefully, you'll need them for the next step. Don't rush this part, accuracy is key. It's always a good idea to double-check your measurements to avoid any unpleasant surprises later. Now, let's move on to constructing the pattern. This is where things get a little more technical, but don't worry, I'll guide you through it. You can find many free tracksuit patterns online, or you can even draft your own based on your measurements. If you're using a commercial pattern, follow the instructions carefully. If you're drafting your own, you'll need to create basic shapes for the top and the pants, keeping in mind the measurements we just took. Remember to add seam allowances to your pattern pieces, usually about 5 of an inch. This will give you enough fabric to sew the seams together neatly. Take your time with this step. A well-constructed pattern is the foundation of a well-fitting tracksuit. Consider using pattern paper or even tracing paper to ensure your pattern pieces are accurate and easy to work with. You can also use weights to keep your pattern pieces in place while you cut. With our pattern pieces ready, it's time for the cutting and assembling phase. Lay out your fabric on a flat surface, ensuring it's smooth and free of wrinkles. Carefully pin your pattern pieces onto the fabric, making sure they are aligned correctly with the grain of the fabric. This is important for the garment's drape and overall look. Use sharp fabric shears to cut out your pieces, following the pattern lines precisely. Once all the pieces are cut, we can start assembling the tracksuit. Begin with the top, sewing the shoulder seams, then the side seams. Next, we'll attach the sleeves, and finally, the neckline and cuffs. For the pants, we'll start by sewing the inseam, then the outseam, and finally, the waistband. Remember to use a suitable stitch length for your fabric type. A slightly longer stitch length is often preferred for knit fabrics. Take your time, and don't be afraid to use pins to hold the fabric in place before sewing. This will prevent shifting and ensure a clean finish. Finally, let's talk about decorating your new tracksuit. This is where you can really let your creativity shine. You could add some stylish stripes, perhaps using contrasting fabric or even some fun patches. You could also add some embroidery, or even some personalized details. Consider adding some pockets for extra functionality. The possibilities are endless. Remember to choose embellishments that complement the overall style of your tracksuit. And don't forget to press your seams as you go, this will give your tracksuit a professional finish. A well-pressed garment always looks more polished and put together. And there you have it, your very own handmade women's tracksuit. I hope you enjoyed this tutorial, and I can't wait to see the amazing tracksuits you create.